Now, Adam Copeland is all elite. You all saw it. Edge made his AEW debut at Wrestle Dream. Same music, same entrance, same rated R superstar name. Since WWE abandoned the trademark on it 3 years ago, he just can't be Edge. He came out to save Sting from a concerto. At the scrum after, Tony Khan said that Copeland is full-time, which means he will be wrestling regularly and he will be on the shows every single week. Sometimes multiple shows per week. Like he did this week. He was on Dynamite and he was on Collision. That's very different from what he was doing in WWE. When he came out at the scrum last Sunday to speak, he looked like a little kid. He was so happy and so genuinely excited to be there. He could hardly contain himself. He said there's an entire fresh roster of faces and talent that he has never laid a hand on before. Just kind of a weird way of putting it, but that he's never laid a hand on before. You keep your hands to yourself, buddy. He's never been in the ring, he said, with Samoa Joe or Sting before Sunday. He says guys like Nick Wayne and Swerve Strickland, he said that's exciting to him. And he also said that he felt free being out there. It felt fun, almost like the same feeling he had when he would come out as an indie wrestler back when he was Adam Impact or Sexton Hardcastle. You know, at this stage of his career, 31 years in the game, to feel that way, I think he put it best. He called it a gift. To be in the wrestling business for that long and to still come out and have that kind of feeling, it is a gift. He also made the rounds. He was doing interviews this week. He told CBS Sports that his run in AEW is likely going to be his last as a full-time performer. He said that he genuinely considered retirement after his last match with Sheamus. He said, as I got closer to the end of my deal, retirement was a very, very real option. It was not off the table. I really sat with the idea of retirement because I truly thought, man, WWE gave me that night. I don't know how that gets topped. And that is still in my brain. But I guess now it's like, okay, how can I try to top it in this new environment? Honestly, that Toronto show was a send-off of that character, and it was the perfect way for that character to go out. Wrestling a guy that I have never wrestled that I always wanted to. It was so much fun out there. That night, I will never forget it. I'll always have that night with me. I told Sheamus that too. That will be one of the most special nights in my career always. He said the decision to go to AEW came down to it's exactly what he said on television. It came down to his desire to have fun and work with his best friend, Christian Cage. And he told the same story on Dynamite about asking his two little girls, what should I do? What should Daddy do? And his daughter said, go have fun with Uncle Jay. He wanted to work with his best friend again. Christian just signed a new deal a few months ago with AEW, so he's locked in for at least a few more years. He's not going anywhere. He's not going back to WWE. So he wasn't going to have the chance to work with him again. Edge is not going to still be going out there 10 years from now. I don't know how long Christian's deal is, but it just wasn't going to happen if he was going to, just wait for him to come back home. The two of them have not wrestled each other since 2010. It's been a long time. As far as how and when the deal came together, he said it wasn't until my contract was up on September 21st. It was not until then. So it was really, really quick to get everything done and get everything dialed in, figuring out so many things like getting with Alter Bridge and getting the music and doing all of those things. There were 9 or 10 days. I didn't know immediately, but I thought that's where I wanted to go. I really thought that working with Jay again was what I wanted to do and how I pictured it in a perfect world. Beth said, what's your perfect world? I was like, my perfect world is that I end my career with Jay. So suddenly that perfect world looked like it could be there. It's tough to pass that up. Now the word was that his deal was up at the end of September. Most of us assumed that meant September 30th, which would have been the day before Wrestle Dream. But it was actually 9 days earlier. If it was the 30th and he showed up the next night with his music and everything, I think Tony Khan would have been getting a nasty legal letter from WWE's legal department. There'd be something a little fishy about it if it came together that quickly. He said, I kind of got the sense there really wasn't a plan for me in WWE. I get it because what else do we do? What else is there to do? And after 25 years, I've literally done everything there. So what do we do? It was nobody's fault. I was coming up against creative walls also. I was having a hard time coming up with ideas, and that's usually not the case. I think they were too. There was also the conundrum that I was contracted for 10 matches per year. I offered to do more, but to their point, it wouldn't feel quite as special, which I understood. It just felt like neither one of us really had any ideas, and that's never been the case before. So when you look at that, and then I look at my best friend over there having the time of his life, at a certain point, once I thought, you know what? I still have a window here where I can do this, and I don't feel like I'm maximizing that. I think that really is what it boiled down to. And I can see both sides on this. Edge wanted to do more. WWE did not have a spot for him on the show, and he had already worked with pretty much everybody there was to work with of any importance. If you look at his last 10 matches, I went back to take a look at his last 10 matches in WWE, dating back to last summer. He was feuding with the Judgment Day still, after they booted him out. He wrestled Damian Priest. He wrestled Dominic Mysterio. He wrestled Finn Balor. He got to team with his wife against Balor and Rhea Ripley. He did the job for Austin Theory and put him over. He beat Balor at WrestleMania in their Hell in a Cell match. He had already done a Hell in a Cell match with Seth Rollins, which was excellent. He worked 3 matches against Seth. He beat Grayson Waller on TV. And then Sheamus in his hometown. So he got to go out with back-to-back wins. It's not like they buried him on the way out. So, clearly there was no ill will there. He got to work with AJ Styles at WrestleMania. He challenged Roman Reigns for the championship. He rekindled his feud with Randy Orton. He won the Royal Rumble. What else was left for him to do? If he felt like he still had a run left in him, and he didn't just want to be the old guy doing jobs for everybody, because then it diminishes whatever value he has, it just wasn't a tenable relationship. WWE treated him very, very well. He gave them 20 plus years of his life. He gave them his neck. They don't owe him anything, and he doesn't owe them anything. And they left things on good terms. Triple H said as much at Fastlane in the Scrum last night. I guarantee you, the so-called fans online, I call them psychopaths. The psychopaths online are angrier about him leaving than anybody in WWE is angry about this. The most interesting thing to me to come out of that CBS Sports interview, it didn't even make the final cut of the actual story. The writer mentioned it on his Twitter. They talked about the Judgment Day. When Edge got kicked out of the group had only existed for 2 months. And it seemed very odd that they would kick him out so quickly and turn him back babyface. He had just turned heel. At the time, right, he cut his hair, he got new music. It's like, what are they doing here, right? He just underwent this transformation. There were reports at the time, and I don't know if it started with Meltzer or if he was just, kind of piggybacking off another report and he just verified it. But I know that in The Observer, Meltzer at the time said that Edge was pulled from the group due to his opposition to WWE's plans to take the group in a supernatural direction. And to be fair, they were doing some weird things on TV with the lights going out and lightning bolts and stuff like that with Damian Priest. So it looked like they started to do more supernatural stuff and then they just quickly abandoned it, thank God. Dave said that Edge was told that they wanted to go in a supernatural direction. Edge didn't like that idea. So they said, well, we'll just take you out. Later that summer, so a little over a year ago, Damian Priest did an interview somewhere. And he said he didn't know where that rumor came from. That's what was planned, because it never was. He said, if anything, he said that they had conversations about how they did not want that, and that included Vince McMahon himself, who did not want the group to be supernatural. And Priest said, we were all in agreement. So what that tells me is that there was some creative discussion about going in that direction. They started to do some of that stuff on TV. The Judgment Day didn't want to go in that direction. Vince McMahon didn't want to, or they convinced him not to. I don't know, but there was clearly something going on, and then thankfully they abandoned it. And they did not go in that direction. Edge told the writer that the reason he was kicked out of the Judgment Day had nothing to do with that. The reason he was kicked out of the Judgment Day is because Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton both got injured and taken off TV. Cody tore his pec. Orton went down with the bad back injury around that same time. So they decided we need a babyface to fill the void. And Edge was the guy. So now we know the real story behind why his heel run was so short. They were shorthanded on top babyfaces. And because of the injuries, they wanted Edge in that spot. In hindsight, Balor replacing Edge in the Judgment Day was the best thing that could have happened to that group. It was dying on the vine in those early days. Adding Balor and then Dominic later on, that added a whole new dynamic to the Judgment Day. And I don't think I could have taken an entire year of those dark Edge promos. Since the plan was to go a year before kicking him out, I don't think I could have handled that. I'm not even sure how that would have worked if he wasn't full-time. How often would he have been on television with them? Right? It may have been a Roman Reigns bloodline situation like we have now, where the leader of the group barely ever shows up on TV. Him being kicked out was the best thing that could have happened for them. CBS Sports was not the only outlet that he gave an interview to. He talked to Sports Illustrated, and he expressed another reason that factored into his decision to leave WWE for AEW. He said that he has long desired to wrestle for New Japan Pro Wrestling. And that was never going to happen, working for WWE. I would love to think things would be different under Endeavor, that they would be more open to WWE working with other promotions, but with the business they're doing right now, there's no incentive for them to do so. They don't have to. You know, why play with others if you don't have to? But Edge said, I've never wrestled at Wrestle Kingdom. I've never wrestled at the Tokyo Dome. How about a match against Kazuchika Okada? That would be pretty cool. I'm pretty excited by that. How about Jon Moxley? A singles match in AEW against Bryan Danielson, Miro, Claudio, Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay, Adam Page, Chris Jericho, Malachi... Now we're just listing the whole roster. FTR in a tag. Teaming with Darby against the Young Bucks. Facing Darby. Facing Sting. A promo battle with Eddie Kingston. You could tell how excited this guy is. He said, the possibilities, they are keeping me awake at night. These new matchups are all super exciting. It all starts next week against Luchasaurus. This whole New Japan thing is not really a surprise that he would want to wrestle Okada. Edge and Christian, they used to have a podcast called The Edge and Christian Pod of Awesomeness. On that show, they once interviewed Kenny Omega. This was a couple of years before AEW started. And during that interview with Omega, Edge said that the first match between Omega and Okada is what helped get him back into watching wrestling again. He had stopped watching. So that's the match that got him back into it. So this is not just him kind of paying lip service like it's the cool thing to say, oh, I'd love to work, in New Japan. He genuinely wants to be able to work with some of those guys. Copeland posted on social media after his debut a message to the fans, and this is what the message said, and this is going to tie into what I'm about to talk about. As some of you may know now, I am no longer with WWE. My new home is AEW. I am excited. Whole new roster. Some familiar faces I wanted to work with again. A whole set of first ever matches. New challenges. And if you followed my career, you know that what I have always been driven by are new challenges. But first and foremost, I want to address my 25 years with WWE. I love WWE. I appreciate everything the company did for me. Always have, always will. They put me on the map, gave me amazing opportunities, and through hard work on both ends, I have been supplied with a wonderful life. WWE helped me meet the woman I would start my family with. Sometimes relationships just grow apart, and I feel WWE and I have just outgrown each other. I wanted to do more. They didn't have much more for me to do. Simple as that. And that's okay. I'll still be watching. I'll still be supporting all of my friends there. I don't buy into this odd mentality of one company or the other. It's weird. If you took offense to that, take a walk, get some fresh air, and soak up some sunshine. It's wrestling. An amazing gig. But still, it's wrestling. Relax. It's supposed to be fun. And it's just a segment of the fans, not most fans, and definitely not the performers. Within the industry, we all know that more choices is better for everyone and pushes us all to be better. As a wrestling fan, which I still am, it's exciting that there's viable companies providing wrestling on national and worldwide platforms. If you are actually a fan of wrestling and not acronyms, that should make you happy too. I guess what I'm trying to say is this. If you've appreciated my work, you still can, no matter what the initials are, because I'll still be busting my ass every time I'm out there. This ride is not over yet. Just try to have fun like it should be, because trust me, I'll be having fun every time I am out there in an AEW ring. I talk a lot about the tribalism among wrestling fans, and if we're being honest, it's really a small percentage of fans. It's a minority of them. But they're a very vocal minority that have this us against them mentality, like they're choosing sides in some great war. You know, if most of them actually had to go to war, they would wet their pants. Or if they came face to face with other fans, the way they talk to them on social media, they'd behave a hell of a lot differently in person, in most cases, than they do online. Social media gives people a lot of keyboard courage. But it's really gotten out of control. We saw it when Ricky Starks congratulated Jade Cargill on her signing with WWE. The lynch mob came after Ricky for congratulating his friend. They came at him with pitchforks and torches. Adam Copeland, this is a man who did everything there is to do at WWE. He wanted to work with his best friend, a friend who is signed with AEW long enough that unless he went there, that was not going to happen. So he got the chance to do that, and now he's happy. And for anyone who claims to be a fan of his, who suddenly is not anymore because he signed with AEW, you were never a fan to begin with. You're not a fan. You're a fraud. But there will always be a segment of wrestling fans that are a few fries short of a Happy Meal. I'm happy for the man. And you should be too. And if you're not, if you're indifferent, that's fine. But if you're not because you feel somehow betrayed by him leaving WWE to go sign with AEW, I suggest you get in touch with your pharmacy and get a refill on your prescription.